All right, we'll roll so that we can get out of here. I want to show you, so one of the things that we're doing is trying to get, so as you can see, there's 3 people in here, right?
Right.
There's not a big, like next door to the P7 CMI and stuff, it's packed. And people go to what they know typically, which is unfortunate because this is a place for equipping. And so coming to something that you're not necessarily as, coming to something that you're not necessarily as familiar with seems to make sense as far as learning. I'm good, I've got one. Thank you. That's good, thank you. Let's just hold on to it. Yeah. I just don't need it right now.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, we'll cut that part out. So coming to a place where you don't necessarily, haven't been a part of it or being equipped. The P7 campus ministry, I'm not hating on them, believe me. They do incredible work throughout the year. But one of the things that I think we're trying to do a better job of is getting an understanding that specifically for multicultural ministry, and I don't say it just because I happen to care a lot about it and happen to be leading the ministry, but it's cross-cutting across everything that we do. And it's interesting because Brother Sistrunk was talking about, there was a bunch of things he talked about upstairs today, and it was just pinging all over inside my head about, the cultural aspects of, one of the things that he said was, they're inviting you into their home and they don't even know you. Well, most of the people that we're talking about, good luck. It's not happening. And so we've got to understand, how do we get into the home and being able to put those pieces together. But we have to have the resources put into our hands in order to better understand. See, it's one thing to be able to pay attention to the world around you and understand that there's aspects that go into people's culture. It's another way of understanding, okay, now that I understand there's different aspects to culture, I know that people come from different cultural backgrounds, it's not 100%, everybody's the same way within every culture. You can probably look within your own family that you're not all the same. And so therefore, no culture is going to be all 100%, what's the right word, homogenous. It's not going to be all one single kind of people and approach and that kind of thing, but if we can sort of look at the broad numbers and understand it a little bit better, it's what's going to actually get us to the seat. It's going to get us into the dining room. It's going to get us into the living room. It's going to get us, or them, into our house. It's going to get those relationships started to even give us a chance to do a Bible study. That's what this is all about, is understanding that we have to be able to relate to people in order to be able to even have that conversation about who God is and what the importance is of God in their life.
Right.
And so one of the ways that we're going to do that, I just want to show you real quick, we've actually, we're getting the website up and running. Don't look at the URL right now, even though now that I've said that, you can look right up at the bar where the URL is, if you can see it. But we are putting the resources together, and a couple of things that we are actually working on is, and we've only got Vietnam and Thailand in there right now, but we're working on an understanding of what the prominent religions, language, cultural aspects of most of these countries, and a description, not just to understand other religions, but understand where the connection points are. Understand, because if we start with things that are common, if we start with things that we can build off of an understanding, then we do a much better job of sort of moving them forward, not trying to tear down all of their belief system and everything and start from scratch, but actually start with what they know, start with where they're at, and build from that understanding. See, too many times we want to get into a philosophical debate with people on, or doctrinal debate on, this, that, or the other thing, and try to prove them wrong. Well, when we get into the business of proving people wrong, we're losing them. If that's what we're going into the conversation with, there's too much of our ego and too much of our need to be right going into it, and we miss out on reaching them. And so There's also going to be resources, probably tomorrow's sessions, but these videos will be there. We're starting a blog journal and looking for if anybody's interested in writing and want to give input and maybe experiences or working with different cultures, best practices kind of a thing. We want to put those in the hands of, let's say, Susie Christian is commuting to work every day and happens to come in contact with the same woman in her ride or man in her ride, and they start to just sort of exchange. When you've been traveling the same route with people back and forth, I experienced this when I was traveling in and out of DC. If you go and come back home pretty much at the same time every day, you end up pretty much on the same train with the same people. And you get to know them even if you don't know them. And so when you get beyond that initial uncomfortable smile, and when you start seeing the same face, and then people start to open up, and then you start, if they're recognizably from a different culture, it gives me an opportunity to start to learn a little bit about that culture. It gives me a chance to learn a little bit about where they're from. And so it's not about bringing them into my world. It's about me having the ability to go into theirs. And once I have the ability to go into their world, because I'm working on understanding what their cultural background is, I'm working on understanding where they might fire from, I have a starting point to have a conversation with them. And once I have that information, then I can sort of follow the Holy Ghost in knowing when he's opening a door or when he's not opening a door. And there's a few things that we have to do. I mentioned that there's some things that are very common no matter what culture it is, but we've got to be able to get to a point to apply those with an understanding of the cultural backdrop. So, that being the case, let's talk about the elements that go into what we call relational evangelism. And so, again, Brother Sistrunk talked about a couple things. He said you got to talk to people. Well, that's absolutely true. But talking to people, talking to people without purposeful intention. If we're not always seeing the world around us as the harvest field, if we're just going through life sort of passively, we're not really seeing the people that God has brought in our path. We're not really seeing people for the souls that God has placed before us. So we're just going through life and just, getting to work, getting home, getting to the grocery store, getting home, and not looking at this is really the harvest field that we're missing out. The other thing that we have to be careful of is allowing business to stay. Too many times we separate business, and I don't just mean our jobs, but the business of life, the business of the things that we do, and separating it from who we are as disciples and as disciple makers. And so what do I mean by that? Well, you ever heard of consumer evangelism?
No.
Frequenting the same business and having the same interactions, doing the same. Right, so I'm guilty of it. I go to the pump and I get my gas at the pump where I don't have to come in contact with people. Although I do it at Sam's Club, there's people on the other side of the pump. How often do I actually spark up a conversation? How often do I, just see if there's anything there? How many times do I pray before I get to the pump and say, God, is there anybody here today? How many times do I go into the grocery store that I go to Sam's Club all the time? Same group of people that are in there. The same greeter, the same people that check you out all the time. Is there an opportunity for that to be more? I try to be, it says if you want friends, you must first show yourself friendly. Well, if you want to reach people, you must first show yourself, as an authentic and natural Christian disciple. right? I can't have a bad attitude when I'm checking out because I'm taking too long and then come back and try to witness to them. It doesn't work. I've already lost the witness, unfortunately, as soon as now, sometimes you can gain it back because, like with a coworker, or even if I'm going through the line, I could maybe recover by coming back and saying, I was in a hurry yesterday and I lost my mind and I think I was probably rude to you and I'm very sorry for that. Please forgive me. I may be able to gain the witness off of that. I wouldn't make it a habit of trying to do that. Hey, let me get upset so I have a reason to come back and give an apology, and maybe that was something. Right? There are some tactics that are not really best employed. That's one of them. But to look at the world around us now. So that being the case, now if I'm interested in, I love food, so it's really easy for me to go and look at all the different places that I like to go and get food in the different cultures that produce that food. So if I'm going to a Thai restaurant, if I'm frequenting a Thai restaurant, or if I'm going to a Vietnamese restaurant that legitimately has Vietnamese there, some of the pho shops don't, but like the phos, I don't think any of the people on that shop are Vietnamese. So learning a few words and phrases is probably not going to go very far. I'm probably going to teach them language. But the place right beside it, Little Spice, the Thai place, it's really funny because we're in there eating, and the girl started talking to my wife in Thai. And I usually greet and say thank you. That's about the extent of it. Sometimes I can maybe order something, but mostly it's just a greeting, thank you, goodbye kind of stuff. Well, I've been doing it for about the last year and a half. We were sitting there about a couple months ago, and the girl starts talking to my wife in Thai. And my wife's like, I'm sorry, I don't understand you. I'm Filipino. She's like, you're not Thai? Well, we just thought. And so it sparked up a whole other conversation. We went into the same place a couple of years ago, about a year ago, and we were doing a Daniel fast. And kind of explained to them that we need to have certain things left out of the dishes. And so they were like, are you dieting? We're like, no, it's a little different. And we explained it was a Daniel fast and how it meant that. Like, oh, wow. But it opened a door. I love how food opens a door because, as I said, I love food. But I love how food can open a door, whether you're eating it with somebody, talking about it with somebody, interested in their food. I mean, that's the easiest place for me to spark up a conversation with somebody. I was watching a special, and they had all this food in Ethiopia, all this Ethiopian food. They use all these spices, and wow, are most of the meals really this filled with spices? And man, as soon as you show interest in somebody else's stuff, food, life, culture, that kind of a thing, and you're not looking to get something from that. That's the reason people don't open the door when they think it's a solicitor, is because the solicitor wants something from them. Right. If they knew it was somebody bringing them something free, you think they would have kept that door closed? No, that door's wide open. That's right. So we've got to be the ones that are coming and bringing something to them, and we've got to approach with that attitude. And part of that is what we talked about today. Part of that's understanding that we can't approach people the way we necessarily think, the way we necessarily want to be approached or be able to be approached. Like I said, going and knocking on people's doors, statistically, it's a waste of time. Statistically. Now, you ask that one person that's been reached by having a door knocked on them. We like to point out those people, don't we? Right? So we point out, one of the elders within the district, and we like to use that as the sentinel event of being able to knock on the door and get a Bible study, and then they turn around and end up by getting saved and eventually becoming a pastor. And now we've got a pretty big church in the district. And that's a great story. just imagine how many doors got knocked on in all of the years that Antioch went and knocked on doors and put out seed cards and all these other things. And I'm not saying they have no place. I'm just saying that in this day and age, they're not as effective. They're very, very minimally effective. As a matter of fact, we don't even do the door knocking or the planting seed thing very well. Right? Jehovah's Witnesses and who's the other group that does it pretty well? Mormons not so much. They're sort of an inclusive or an exclusive. So Jehovah's Witnesses. There's one other group, I can't remember. I was looking at the statistics. It's like 1 in 10,000 people actually get an actual follow-up. And they hang everything that they do on that 1 in 10,000 follow-up. And so that's why they're the ones that have the pocket protectors and go out on their missions thing, right? That's why they send them out in droves. That's why they send them out to get all this seed out there, because it's a numbers game. How about if we actually took the time to learn a little bit about the handful of people that God may lead us to, if we're listening, if we're asking, God, open a door, lead me to these people, and if we're paying attention, He'll do it. And if we actually spent the amount of time and effort on productive things, because the bad thing about walking around and putting a flyer on somebody's door or doing a door knocking is once you've done it, it's done. Once I put that on your car, or once I put that on your door, it's typically done. I'm not getting anything out of it. But if God's leading me to witness to, say, a Vietnamese person, well, let's just stick with the Thai because of the spice. So God has led me to speak specifically to someone, He's given me a word for them or whatever, and I go away and I learn. I learn the culture. I learn the things that are going to help me avoid offense. I learn the things that are going to help me maybe build a bridge. I learn the things that are going to help me understand their culture and their world a little bit better. The interesting piece is we've got first generation, say Thai, and then we've got the second and third. A lot of times we've got a second or third generation that work in these places. And the cool thing is that there's sort of a little bit of a melding of the Americanisms that sort of come on with the Thai-isms, if you will. And if I spend time learning and understanding, remember that family I talked about, how tight-knit families are? If I take the time and I get invited into that household, chances are, if God's in it, and I'm following the leading of the Holy Ghost, and I'm going there and I'm learning those things, what I learned in relation to that one person is now something that I have available for God to use continually in other venues, not just at Little Spice, the one restaurant I happen to like an awful lot. So, seed card, I put on a door, interaction with one person, no seed card, but I'm building relationship, I'm building connections, I'm learning as I go, I'm asking, you know what, how many times have we gone someplace, whether it be when we went to the Philippines or when we talk with, I'm constantly learning from our Korean sisters, and the two brothers that are married to them that are Korean linguists, and they've had to learn the culture and that kind of constantly learning from them. Now, the one thing I have learned is if you say you like something, you like a certain kind of food, they are going to make it and make it and make it because they want to please. And I am so thankful every time it happens, not just because I get to enjoy the food, but I see the look on their face when I have that excitement and that gratitude about something that they've done. And when I do that, it's not artificial. I really, truly have gratitude. It's not just an act. I really, truly do care. But now I can understand how expressing that gratitude means a lot to them. And being able to break down some of those barriers. I don't need to with these particular ladies, but they can teach an awful lot about approaching a Korean and Korean woman and in the patriarchal sort of that masculine society, how you navigate that. Something I learned is anyone in any sort of position of authority that has been given a title, there is no way in the world they would ever second guess. Definitely not out in the open. They might, in the context of being an apostolic, maybe go to their husband and express that. But there's no way they would ever express any displeasure, any offense. Like say, just even in his own, they would never, Sister Mallory would never say a hurtful thing to her about me. Ever. She can't. It's not in her ability to do so because of the way she's been brought up. Well, she's helped me to understand that. That's not only important to understand about her, but it's important for me to understand that I need to do my very best not to put her in a position where she feels that struggle. She'd never say it, but I could certainly hurt her. I could certainly offend her. So I've got to be even more cognizant, more cautious about doing that. And so a lot of this is just being aware of the world that's around us and being flexible to adjust to that world and not so much about it being all about us. And that's the problem with being in a low context culture, growing up in a low context culture. It's all about me, it's all about I. And it's hard to convince people to get outside of that mindset. The fact that you're in here today is the fact that you're getting in at least two. Have you traveled overseas? And not really, but you've kind of been in Hawaii, so it's a little bit sort of the same. It's a very different world outside of the contiguous 48 states. Even Alaska and Hawaii are very different. Puerto Rico, anything outside of the U.S. is very, very different. And if you go in there with blazing American guns and think you're going to win the world by, knocking them down, you've got another thing coming. Guess what? Those same people are here. Those same cultures are here, especially here in the Maryland, D.C. district. They're here. And we have to learn how to adjust to that. We have to learn how to be flexible enough to go into their world. Here's the other thing we don't do very well. And I mentioned, I didn't quite get to it on Sunday very extensively, but we talk a lot about sowing, right? Sowing and planting. We talk about some soil, we talk about us being in the right place, but we very rarely talk about watering. And I know in Scripture, some sow, some water, but God gives the increase. Well, I don't know of a farm in the U.S. or ever that has existed in time that the farmer who put the seed in the ground wasn't also the one who watered. Right? Very rarely do you see a farmer hiring out somebody to come and irrigate their lands. So if God has given us the responsibility to understand and to know the ground and to till the ground up so that it's prepared properly. And I know that we're taking a couple of different analogies and sort of mixing them together. Some is our heart, right? Some is the having our heart right, and so that the seed can grow in our hearts. But also, as we're going out and we're witnessing to others, and we're asked to sow, we don't indiscriminately just drop that seed down. We have to do something to prepare the ground. And all the things that we talked about this morning, and we're starting, sort of in the introduction to talk about, are all really part of preparing the ground so that when we do put the gospel seed into the ground, that it has a place to grow. But we're not just going to drop that seed in the ground and walk away and never do anything to that dirt, that seed again. As a matter of fact, Mama Venalan, the matriarch of the large Filipino family that we have in Atlanta, she gave us a plant that is not found in nurseries here in the U.S., but she's growing them, and I'll just let you put the connections together. And beautiful plant. And she went and dug some out of the ground and gave it to us to plant back at the house. Well, she put it in a plastic bag and then another bag. She had a little bit of soil on the bottom, and it was a little bit moist. And So I took it, and when I got home, I set it in a chair outside. And I could see that if you've ever taken any of the greens from the grocery store and brought them home, you sit it out on the counter overnight, and guess what? They're wilted. They're in bad shape. So it was okay. They weren't terribly, terribly wilted. So I took them, and, I don't have greens on. I'm not very good at keeping plants alive. Plants and fish don't do well in our house. So I dug a hole in the ground. I took some of the soil that was there, the soil, and I put that plant in. And I pushed the soil back around it, and I forgot to water it. The next day I came out, and that whole thing had gone, all laying down on the ground. No water. Important ingredient. So I grabbed a couple bottles of water, because it was the easiest thing I had. I looked walking at it, I was like, I can't leave it dead, I gotta go. So I'm going to grab a couple of bottles of drinking water. And I popped the tops, and I came out and poured the water on. I came back 2 hours later, peaked right back up, green back up, looked great. They've been standing, we've had natural water, and I've watered them every day ever since. And they're now thriving. And I think too many times we get so fixated on the sowing part of things that we forget that there's a necessary watering that has to happen. So that consumer evangelism that I talk about, the relational evangelism that I'm talking about, you can't do it once and expect it to work. You can't go to one restaurant, have a quick conversation with somebody, and expect that you left an enduring seed. Now, God's amazing because we're not in this alone. So God may choose to use somebody else to water. So I go to the restaurant, I have the initial conversation and start to build a relationship, and somebody else comes in behind and has another one of those. Well, then I come back and we sort of take the conversation a little bit further, but now somebody else comes along and does it. Not completely orchestrated by God, not by us. And God's working the process, and we just make ourselves available. That's really where the cool part of this comes in, because you just never know. You may only have an opportunity to plant a seed, and somebody else has to come and water, and God's going to work it out. But we can't assume in the places where we walk the same ground over and over, we can't assume that God intends for somebody to water because we sowed. It's not a formula that we're supposed to follow. It's just it's an encouragement to us that God's going to use us all in different ways, but it doesn't mean He's not going to use us to do both of those aspects. Clearly, sowing and watering and the increase is important. So it's got to be sown, so we've got to put it in the right dirt. So we've got to understand people. We've got to understand what the right growing climate is for them, if we're going to stick with the plant analogy. Understanding cultures and where the cultures fit into this scenario. That's all a part of preparing the soil. And as we're preparing the soil through relationship and through sometimes it's going to be time. And I would just counter a little bit. Some people are obstinate and don't want anything to do with it. Some people are just not ready. And if you give up on the people who are just not ready too early, and God had a plan, sometimes He's teaching us in the midst of that. We have somebody who we've been bringing to church and back when we were doing care groups and everything else, going to families' birthday parties and all that kind of stuff for 10 to 12 years before, 12, 13 years before she got the Holy Ghost. Before she was even willing to do anything besides socialize with the rest of the Filipino group. She had already been baptized in Jesus' name. Somebody else took care of that years ago in another state. It was the first time that she was actually having sat in on, she had been around for all of our care group stuff, and we talk doctrinal stuff, and we talk about those things, but we were able to finally, after all that relationship stuff, finally get her into a full-on Bible study. And we were able to go through an understanding of baptism in Jesus' name, infilling of the Holy Ghost. And it was still 4 months after that before she surrendered. And it was a stressful time in her life, something that happened in her family, and she was willing to let her guard down and let Jesus in. I have no idea if it was necessary for the 10 or 12 years before that, but imagine if we would have quit after 6 years because she didn't want anything. It wasn't like she was obstinate and didn't want anything to do with it. It's just she wasn't progressive. Fine. Keep coming around. Keep bringing food. Keep eating food. We'll keep doing it. It's not up to me to determine what the timeline is. It's up to Jesus. And he knew exactly. He knows our beginning from our end. So he knew exactly when she was going to be ready. And he knew exactly when and how and what. I don't have to worry about all that stuff. All I got to do is make sure that I'm available to people. And part of that is understanding the cultural context of people's lives. It's easy if you stay in a homogenous area and you never have to worry about, thinking in a different way, which I think is dangerous anyway, but thinking in a different way because, they'll forgive me because they're American too. It's so long. So, I'm going to bring up a familiar scripture just to remind us. I know that those of us that are here in the room understand this parable, understand this scripture. Luke 15, there's 3 things that are precious that God, this is the only time where a parable talks about 3 things all at one time, sort of 3 parables in one, if you will. And it talks about the shepherd with the lost sheep, he talks about a woman with a lost coin, and he talks about a father with a lost son. And this is the first and only time in Scripture that we see 3 parables being used to talk about something lost. And so very clearly, something of great value and something that's lost is important to Jesus. And so one of the things that we've got to remind ourselves is that because people are important, it's important for us to do all that we can to allow Jesus to shape the way that we approach people. And so let's go back to, let's talk about a few ways that, based on some of the stuff we talked about earlier, who remembers the 6? Let's talk through the 6 areas. And you can cheat if you have to. Okay, that was the last one. The last thing is easiest to remember. Power distance. So what was indulgence?
Indulgence?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, indulgence is...
Okay, indulgence is...
Indulgence, and maybe I'll have it wrong, but indulgence is where someone is able to be more so involved as opposed to, being hands off on something, as opposed to having more of something and less of something.
Okay. Everyone help?
Indulgence is mainly having a quick buzz, I guess you could say, of having entertainment consume the majority of your culture and life compared to constraint, which is having more of like a goal mindset,
Okay.
climbing the ladder of goals.
Okay. I add to it. Oh. Okay. The word amuse. So, that's actually 2 words, technically. That's what that prefix. So when you put the word a in front of a word, what does that typically do? It means the absence of, right? So muse is to think or to consider. Amuse or amusement is absence of thought, absence of. And so given to a lot of, it's interesting, wasn't it the Catholic Church that used to, you could buy indulgences, right? It was, you could get the get out of jail free pass kind of a Catholic.
And I believe Protestant a little bit.
It was a Protestant. So, what's that? Episcopal Church. Yeah, so you could buy an indulgence, or basically I get to sin free card, which is just mind blowing if you think about it. But yeah, it's the ability to indulge in something, sometimes to excess, to try to fill that empty space. All right, what else? So we said power distance. So what's power distance?
Well, you have two options. One where based on your title, based on what you do, based on what you're known for.
Mm-hmm.
When you said that, it reminded me of England.
Yeah.
Because in England, if you were anybody, you always carry a business card with you that has all your degrees listed on it.
Alphabet soup.
That's exactly right. So when you're dealing with someone, even if it's a minister of a church, he gives you a card that says he's a minister or a bishop or whatever. But it's kind of like that. It's depending on your status.
Yeah. And so, the power distance. So you said we have two different levels. So that would be the really heavy hierarchical. Everyone is stratified with a title and position, and then the other side is more of a flattened. Everybody's sort of Tom, Dick, and Harry, Sally, and Sue, and there aren't necessarily titles that go along with it. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have the familial titles, mom, dad, that kind of thing, but in America, for traditionally American families that don't have other cultural backgrounds, calling siblings, whether they're older or younger, there's no use of any sort of a title or of a courtesy, and so access to things and access to who, how that society is stratified is very, very different. And where you think you fit, it was really apparent to us in Nepal, because even though the law requires the caste structure to be done away with, you can take it out of the law books, but you can't take it out of the hearts and minds of the people, unfortunately. And I was sitting in a room with the mayor, or their equivalent to a mayor, with all the folks that were part of the church that were from a traditionally lower caste. And he was talking about them like they're not human. Literally saying those words. Yeah, they're not human, they're backwards, and I'm thinking, my Lord, how can you talk about people that are, this far away listening to the conversation, and maybe they didn't understand all the words, but when you use the same word over and over, they're going to look at somebody who knows what was being said. Hey, what's he say? What's that? I keep hearing this word over and over. They're not humane. What does that mean? And so the offense that can come along with that. But that's where that structure, the cultural background. So sometimes you got to get past that with their inability to receive, because there's this appearance of them either being higher or lower on whatever that structure is. And so we've got to go. So, all right, we've got indulgence and we've got power distance.
Individualism and collectivism.
Individualism, collectivism.
I versus us.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, perfect. Yep. And we've got three more.
Feminine versus masculine.
Yep.
That you discuss about power and authority, use that based on your masculine position, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I think it also, and I probably didn't cover this very well, but it's really the nurturing versus the power. So, a lot of times in a traditional family, we see mom as the nurturer, right? And we see dad as the authoritarian. And dad's the one that lays down the law, and mom comes back and, builds him back up, kind of a thing, if you want to look at it that way. And we can see that sort of cultural background as well in the way people approach life. Do they come from an environment where it's very nurturing, everyone's taken care of, almost, pardon the term, but it's the easiest one I can bring up, is a socialistic sort of mentality. The government takes care of everybody's nurtured, and nobody has to go get outside of that.
When you talk about this, what comes to my mind is in England, the Lord has sent me to a place, and I saw this lady, Lord told me to watch her, I wanted to pray for her. And as I started praying, she started crying and stuff. And come to find out she was an Egyptian Muslim.
Oh, wow.
And what had happened was that she was having a hard time in her life. And so the Lord had connected her, and showed me who to connect her to work with her, to pray with her. What was most interesting about this was the masculine femininity thing, where her culture believes that the women don't do anything, they just follow everybody. Right? And it was amazing because when the Lord had told me what to tell this lady to show her, it was to show her what women were, what women did in the Bible, to show that women are just as important as men when it comes to.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's pretty amazing when you see how it actually impacts the way people think and the way they react and respond. And, and then when you have a chance to bring that with a scriptural context to it, that's pretty awesome. All right, so feminine, masculine, 2 more.
Uncertainty avoidance.
Okay?
And that would be said with like specific planning, those who want specific detail.
Right.
Versus those who would take it as the Lord gives them.
Right. Yep. I mean, so am I going to, the ones who are more ambiguity, they're going to be more anxious, or the ones that, it's more, am I going to be able to, how am I going to witness to those 2 different groups of people? Like, say, we've gotten to a point now where we're starting to build a relationship. I understand that I'm noticing or paying attention to sort of all these 6 areas. I understand where they're coming from, the high context versus low context. And I'm now at a point where I understand that I've got somebody who is has a high avoidance of ambiguity.
I would say based on what he talked about today, this one applies. Because where he said, remember from the very beginning of today's session, is if you have a Bible study that's structured and you're going to go and this is all you're going to teach, nothing's going to happen. But you have to be willing to let the Lord tell you how to change that Bible study. Because you might be teaching the last lesson before you teach the first lesson. Okay. So when you explain how you explain that, it's not being so structured that you don't want to change what God's trying to show you. But the fact is you're letting the Lord lead you in how to teach.
So how can I follow the Holy Ghost in teaching and help the person that has difficulty with sort of this not knowing where we're going in this Bible study? Like, so for example, a lot of Bible studies have 12 sessions, or they have whatever. I'm not a big fan of that, but whatever. How God brings it through. But is there something I might be able to do in the current session in the Bible study that if I recognize they avoid uncertainty? They just don't like not knowing what's coming next. What might I do as I'm finishing up this session? What might I do to help them with that?
Let me use my experience in Philippines. Sure. All right. We were supposed to go, in January, and the Lord told us, don't go yet. And so for the whole month, I don't speak any Filipino. And so for the whole month of January, the Lord had me also studying the sign. And I still can't speak it. But I'm writing Bible studies that are both in English and the sign. And so when I got there in February, that was what I ended up teaching. And now I look back, I'm in shock, But what I learned is when I first sat down with them, I said, well, this is what I want to show you. It's God's plan of salvation. And they're all Catholics. So it was more of, it got modified, because one morning I got up and the Lord said, don't do that, now change to this.
Yep.
So you let them know, okay, next session I'm planning on showing you this. And then they're going to ask questions, because based on the culture and the way they were raised, they're going to change a little bit what you teach. But yet the Lord has already given you what you're supposed to teach.
Right. So you hit it right in the middle of that. So you're going to let them know
what's
coming. Which sounds simple, and you're like, oh, that's common sense. Why would you even ask that question? Because for the people who come from an environment where not knowing what's coming next, and let's break it down. And so, I don't know what's coming next. I grew up in a place where I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. I didn't know if the government was going to do something to me. I didn't know if my family was going to be under attack. I didn't know, and now I've got all this anxiety, and now you're just going to come every week and you're just going to teach a Bible study. And I don't know if it's ever going to end. I don't know if it's, what's the whole point to this? And now with anxiety, every time you come over, I don't know what to expect. And so now I'm already anxious. And maybe I can't receive very well what you're trying to bring it's a simple tweak. It's just, this is what we're going to cover next week. And again, good teachers, that's sort of natural for us to do. But we also have a lot of people who like flying by the Spirit. And I say that sort of tongue in cheek. We should always follow the Holy Ghost. But some people like to be in the clouds, following the wind, calling it the Holy Ghost, right? Because if I don't have to be tied to something, then it's easier for me to wiggle out of it. And it's not a big portion of people, but they're out there.
You're right. There's one thing in teaching a Bible study to someone of any culture.
Mm-hmm.
If you just be slow and don't try to run and let the Lord take you step by step. And as you just said, you can say, I'm following the wind, and the next thing you know, they're still behind and you're way ahead of them.
Right.
They're never going to come to the Lord.
Exactly. And can be insensitive to where they are. I mean, we talk a lot about this with UTV and really focusing with the teachers that we have, the 7 teacher trainees. One of the things we spend a lot of time focusing on is this is student. The opposite of what I meant to say. That it's student and curriculum driven. So we've got to stay with the curriculum, not hard line to it, but that's sort of one of the bumpers. Kiddie bowling, you put the bumpers up, right? You got to stay in the lane, and so you put the bumpers up. The bumpers are right. They stay in the boundaries. So the Bible study curriculum is one boundary, and the other boundary is the student. And we allow the Holy Ghost to navigate us in between those two areas. And if we follow that simple sort of a context, if you will, or that simple formula, it's going to keep us within the cultural context, which is the person, and within the doctrinal boundaries, if you will, and then we stay following the Holy Ghost and navigating that relationship. God's going to work it out in the end. So, were you with us when we did the Go Fish series?
No, I came in after that. I just started UTV.
Okay, right.
I was supposed to be a teacher.
Yes.
The Lord said, you're moving on. So.
Yeah. So I'm going to mention a formula. I mentioned it really briefly on Sunday, but I know everybody wasn't there. So there's a formula that has worked out really well, and I'll break it down. And what time did we start? 2:30? 2:30. All right. I'll wrap it up for the benefit of everybody. Let me just take 5 minutes and then we're done. And hold me to it. It's 3:31. There's a formula that works really well, and it's a high-potency Christian, and I really think it really is disciple, high-potency disciple. And that high-potency disciple means that I'm authentic. I'm not one person, one place, and another person, another. If you run into me on the street, or if you run into me, in the pew, so to speak, you're going to get the same person. You're not going to get some other version of me. So I'm authentic. I'm natural. I'm just me. I'm who God made me to be, with all the benefits and drawbacks, my personality, and all that goes along with it. But I'm going to allow God to use me how He's made me. But I've also got to be one that has spent my time doing some of the homework. I've got to be in the Word, but I've also got to understand cultures, and I've got to pay attention to the world around me. That's what a high-potency disciple is. Somebody who is aware, who is woke to the world around them, and is making every attempt possible to meet the needs of the people that God has brought in their path. So it's a high-potency Christian plus close proximity. So now, the work that needs to happen in me is able to work for the benefit of others because I'm in close proximity. So now I'm out and I'm in the places the consumer evangelism, the relational evangelism, all the things that we talked about. Notice I haven't once talked about inviting somebody to a gathering, a service, or whatever the moniker people want to use. I haven't talked about inviting them to a small group yet. That can come later. Those things can come later, but in the natural evolution of the relationship, the natural evolution of their desire to know the Word of God. So, high potency, close proximity, clear communication. So, people can read through the facade, people can read through the lies, people can read through the avoidance quickly. And nowadays, people aren't interested in having empty relationships, not interested in having, they can see through. We talk a lot about being able to get the word out. The most easiest way to get the word out to people or send a message is email. Well, how many? You can look at the click rate on emails, and it's a good day if you're somewhere in the 20s, right? People are just not about empty delivery of messages, if you will. They're not into empty discussions. They want substance. So you've got to be clear in the communication. And if they ask you a question that's a difficult question, you have to sense with the Holy Ghost. Is this something that's worth either offending or losing them? Or is it something that maybe this is the time and the place where God is trying to work? If you're not paying attention to the Holy Ghost and you're not paying attention to where He wants to go, there's a high chance you're going to mess it up. And I don't care if it's in a cultural context or a family member. You got to be paying attention. So if you can take the high potency plus the close proximity, Jesus was in close proximity. All the religious people had shown up to see Jesus at this one house, and they couldn't understand, or they couldn't pay attention, couldn't notice that there was somebody that had a need on the outside, up until they had to open up the roof and lower the guy down in his bed for him to get healed. They were so busy and enamored by the things inside of the religion that they couldn't see there was a real need. So, high potency, close proximity, clear communication gives you the maximum impact. If you want to maximize the impact in the world around you, that's a simple formula. And part of that high potency is going back to understanding the differences, the things that make up culture, and the backgrounds that people come from. I'll just close by saying this. That website that I mentioned, we are looking to have it fully live with a lot of resources. I won't say all the resources. Come next month when we have a celebration of Southeast Asian cultures on Friday night, the 16th. And then the 17th is another, probably about 6 hours worth of multicultural, different aspects of teaching, whether it be English as a second language, whether it be working with refugees. Again, refugees, what a great place to put us in direct contact with people that we can understand the cultural context and get in and make an impact. There's somebody who came 3 years ago that said, the time in people's lives where they're most able to be impacted is a time when they're in transition. And refugees are in the process of transition. If we can get in there and connect and relate to them in a culturally appropriate way and allow God to work and us to be sensitive to that work and to be responsive to that work, we can make an incredible impact. Instead of being intimidated by or angered by people coming from countries that, predominantly Muslim in this case, but that have other issues going on, rather than being intimidated or frustrated or whatever by that, how about if we saw that as an opportunity, that God was trying to do something in us, and all we've got to do is get outside of ourselves and be willing to use it. So, anyway, missed it by a minute. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.